playing the Lakers. So it's like, oh God, they were really smart to do. And then one more picture. Promise I won't bore you more with this. And this is 3 months ago. This is 3 generations of Vanni. My son, the nice looking tall young man, who is a math teacher at Harrington High School. Didn't get it from me. I'm the verbal guy. Didn't get it from me. Come on in. Right? Me, of course, wearing my same shirt to do. And the young man in front in the wheelchair is my father, who will be 103 at the end of this month. So I'll be around for a while. I'm ready. I'm 74 and I'm still a kid, which is pretty cool that I can do that. This is not meant to be just me talking, although I probably will end up talking a lot. Comments, questions, challenges, I'm fine with that. I say something, you're like, nah, let me know. Just speak up, please speak up. I don't know everything. I know a lot of stuff. That's my motto. I know stuff, but I don't know everything, stuff to do. And then for those of you, I will be showing slides and different things. For any of you who want copies of those, if you put your name and your email down, right? Make a donation to John Boy's name. I recycle everything. All right, to do. So no obligation here. I have no problem with that. If you want to do that, I will gladly send them to you as well. So let me take these guys off the screen. You don't need to be looking at these anymore. And Alex, let's take this out also. So I don't want my email. Oh my goodness. We'll begin with this. But before we figure out how to choose a college, you might notice that up here in the front are 4 hoodies from different local colleges and universities. Well, ladies and gentlemen, they're not just for decoration. They're for you to win. You can take one of these home with you. I mean one, you can only win one. It's just like Jeopardy. You can only win one of these. All you have to do is raise your hand and respond correctly to a question about colleges that I'm going to ask. Now, I'm going to reinforce this rule. You have to raise your hand. If you just shout it out, I'm just going to ignore you and go right past you. Hello, come on in. I'm just going to pretend that you weren't even there. So somebody might steal your shirt if that happens. So just to say, hey, did you win?
Yeah.
Yo,
Sorry.
awesome. Singles or doubles?
Doubles.
Doubles, nice. Whom did you whoop?
Strawberry.
My son teaches at Harrington. Teaches in the math department. Yeah. Go. What are we? Rams. Go Rams. Okay. So here's the thing. Everybody always asks like, what's first? Okay. But these questions are going to be what's second. What's second? So if you know the answer, raise your hand. I'll call on you, and you can take home one of these hoodies. They're all different sizes. You can look and see. So pretty much everybody knows that the first 4-year university founded in the United States was Harvard. What was second? What was the second school founded in the United States? Don't be embarrassed.
I'll say William and Mary.
And you would be correct. The College of William and Mary, second. Who attended the William and Mary? George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and John Stewart. The Comedy Central Bank. Take one. Please take one, please. Don't make me bring them home. Please take one.
Right now?
Yes, please. So I'm going to keep going. Somebody might steal
Which
yours.
is the biggest?
Sure, go ahead. Whatever. What's the biggest one? Probably Villanova. No, Penn State probably. Penn State is probably the biggest one. Okay. So question number 2. The first school founded in the state of New Jersey is Princeton. What was second? That's the only other school you know in New Jersey. Rutgers. Right, Rutgers. Take a shirt. Anyone? Yes, New Jersey has a distinction of being the only state that has 2 of the first 10 founded colleges in the United States. Princeton used to be called the College of New Jersey. And when Trenton State College changed its name, Princeton sued them. Like, can we please let go? No. And Rutgers used to be known as Queen's University, complementing Columbia, which used to be known as King's University. There you go. I know stuff, right? All right, number 3. First university founded in Pennsylvania was University of Pennsylvania. Easy. What was number 2? This is harder. Small liberal arts college. Central Pennsylvania.
Franklin Marshall?
Close to Franklin and Marshall. It's Franklin and Marshall-esque. You can't win again.
That's fine.
But if you're the only one that knows, you can win and give it to somebody else. Small liberal arts college in Pennsylvania.
Is it Davidson?
Who else? Who wants a shirt? That's correct. Go ahead. Who? You give it to somebody. Yeah, sure. All right. And the last one. This will be a little bit tougher. Gotta really think about this one. The first university founded in the state of Wyoming was the University of Wyoming. Duh, right? What was second?
Thank you.
What was the second university, 4-year university, founded in the state of Wyoming?
There isn't one.
There isn't one.
Wow.
That's correct.
Wow.
There are several small 2-year colleges, and there's Wyoming Catholic College, which is not accredited, so I don't recognize that. So you can give your shirt away. Who wants a shirt?
Anyone?
Who wants
Anyone?
Temple?
Temple.
Temple, going once? Temple, take it, please take my shirt. So I don't have to carry it home. Please. Okay, no, see if I care. Or Temple,
I know.
you know?
Temple, that's exactly.
You know what, if Temple, seriously, thank you, if Temple moved to Manayunk, they would have double the enrollment. I feel so bad.
Yeah.
My son did his master's, he did his master's in teaching at Temple, and it was a bit of an adventure to do. So let's start with just sort of how this whole college thing works. If any of you attended university outside the United States, this has got to be an incredible mystery to you, because it's a mystery to those of us who attended college in the United States, because everything changes. The United States being what it is, a big, large country with a lot of people who do things individually. I'm going to sit, so hopefully be able to see everybody. Yes, I can still see everybody. There are 93 universities in the country of Canada. There are 19 universities in the country of Mexico. There are 193 in the entire United Kingdom, all 4 countries. Counting the 2-year colleges in the United States, 4,000. 4,000, okay? So number 1, colleges are snowflakes. We use snowflakes to indicate uniqueness. No 2 snowflakes are alike. Raise your hand if you actually believe that. No, how can that? No, there's 7 billion snowflakes that fall in every minute, and of course they're the same to do. But let's just pretend that that's true. It is true about colleges. Clearly there are similarities, but they're all different. You can't just lump them. You can't just say, well, oh, I can go to Penn State or Pitt, it's the same. Yeah, no, they're not. I can go to Yale or Princeton, they're the same. No, they're not. Even little Swarthmore and Haverford, 2 small Quaker colleges, they're the same school. No, they're not. Swarthmore is more intellectual, Swarthmore is more political, Swarthmore is more neurotic. Haverford is more Quaker-ish. Haverford is more collaborative. They're different. Haverford has ducks, Swarthmore doesn't. Swarthmore has a big hole in the middle of it because they're going carbon neutral in 2030, so they're digging up the whole campus to do that. So they're different. They're these schools is different. So that will put some pressure on students to do their research. And really, the student needs to do the research because here's your snowflake and here's their snowflake, and they have to match. They have to match. There's some wonderful schools in the world that are not appropriate for you because they don't match you. I went to a teeny tiny college with fewer than 1,000 students. Who does that? Me. Nobody does that now. And it's hard for me even to suggest small liberal arts colleges to students with whom I interact. So it has to be something that really matches you. And that match has to be in several different areas. It can't just be academic. It has to be personal, it has to be cultural, it has to be social. And you have 4,000 choices, gang. So there's quite a bit. And honestly, I honestly believe that if you can't find dozens of colleges that fit you well, where you would be welcome, embraced, and happy, you're not looking. You're not looking. There aren't just 10 colleges in the world worth going to. Right? If it doesn't say Ivy after it, it doesn't mean you're going to be a loser. Right? Think of the 5 people in life that you admire the most. How many went to an Ivy League school? Maybe 1. In my life, 0. Okay? So think about your parents. Where did your parents go to school? Oh, wait, my parents never went to high school. Yeah, I was first generation high school. I got to 9th grade, I'm like, I win. Yeah. My grandparents had a 3rd grade education in Italy. They're peasants, paisan, word paisan comes from peasants, southern Italy. They wouldn't build schools, the government, what a waste. So they would have teachers come to the farms and teach reading and writing. That's it, that's all they got. Let me just say that my grandparents didn't really learn very much out of that. So it's got to be a really good match for you to do that. Okay? The second thing to understand is that colleges are businesses. Oh boy, are they ever. They love making money. You see the prices of colleges these days. They love making money. And you might say, well, wait a minute. Cigus, come on. Colleges are nonprofit. They can't make money. Sure they can. Nonprofits can make as much money as they want. They just have to put the money back into the institution. They can't buy Swedish fish. Even if they're in Sweden, they can't buy Swedish fish. So they love making money. They love being ranked. You see all these advertisements about, we're number 21 in the Northeast, and we're the. I love the hypocrisy with this, because colleges will be like, oh, we don't pay any attention to the rankings, and then all of our publications, we're number 3 in the West. Be prepared for a lot of that double talk. They really compete with one another. And many of the schools are like, we want more applications. And if we want more applications, we have to take away some of your applications to do. And understand that you might get these outreaches from some of these really selective schools, or as I like to call them, really rejective schools, because that's really what they are. So, you get something in the mail from Dartmouth, you get something in the mail from Pomona, you're like, they love me. No, they love your application. So now there will be more people that they can deny. And then they can tell everybody we're like the most selective college in the country. Sorry. Let me give you a question that doesn't get a prize. What's the most selective college in the United States? 1% admitted. You look at it. Ooh, close. That's about 9. 1% acceptance rate. You won't know it. Minerva University. Minerva University. It's based in San Francisco, and it has a unique setup because you attend college in 4 different continents in 4 years. So maybe you start in San Francisco, then sophomore year is Buenos Aires, junior year is Brussels, and senior year is Singapore. Or vice versa. Or there's 13 different campuses on 5 different continents. No Africa yet, no Antarctica. Oh, penguins, yes. Right. So 1% admit rate, because there's a lot of students that say, wow, I'd love to do that. Right? But they only have a cohort of like 200 students a year to do. So, understand about the business part of it. And if any of you students have ever taken a test, like a PSAT or something like that, you've probably been receiving mail or email from colleges and universities. Ah, okay. I challenge you to take any two of them, any two, pick them randomly, cross out the name, cross out the location, and see if you can tell them apart. They're all the same. Happy, smiling people, and it's sunny out, and everybody's dancing around. They're all the same. If there's 10 Jewish kids in the entire school, there'll be a picture of 9 of them on a hillside, Star of David evident, and somebody sounding a shofar. So pay no attention to these. It's marketing. That's what it is. It's marketing with these schools. Okay? Students will need to market themselves also. Now, you can't design brochures and send them to colleges. I wish I could get my students to do that. Wouldn't that be the best? Like, more of those the best. That was so fun. But what students do to market themselves, there's 3 things. Number 1 is to contact the college and tell them you're interested. You can email them, you can go online and do a tour, you can visit the campus, you can do connecting. It's all about connecting with the college so that they know that you're interested in them. This actually, in the last about 15 years, has become a variable. It's called demonstrated interest. Because now colleges can keep track. Our high schools have Naviance, SCORE, these programs where you can connect with the college. Well, colleges have something called Slate. Anytime you make contact with the college, open an email, respond to an email, email the tennis coach, go on a tour, go on, Slate goes click, and they know. They know that you've connected with them. So it's called demonstrated interest. The other name for it is sucking up. Now, some schools pay way more attention to this than others. Does Harvard pay attention to this? No, they don't need to. Right? But the less selected schools do because they don't want to waste acceptance. They want to know if you really want to go to do. So this is part of the marketing that goes. Because if they waste an acceptance, you don't go, then their yield goes down. Yield, what's yield? Well, yield is the number of students that accept the college back. So if Harvard accepts 100 students, how many students go? 80, about 80 go, right? Minerva has a pretty darn good yield. The best yield is Deep Springs College in California, 100% yield. Every student that's accepted goes. That's a whole other story. But yield is big these days. It's one of those measures like, oh my God, everybody loves you because everybody wants to go to your school. So if I don't think you want to go to my school, I'm not going to waste an acceptance on you. So I don't do that. So games, these are games, but students need to be aware of these games. So that's number 1, contact. Number 2 is an interview. That's another way that a student can market themselves. What percentage of colleges actually interview? Maybe 5%. Gonna get an interview at Penn State? No. Penn State doesn't even read your essay. Penn State doesn't even read your letters of recommendation. So yeah, they're not interviewing you. Mostly the more selective schools, the smaller schools, the specialty schools. If you apply to Curtis Institute of Music, your interview is called an audition. Right? So usually, not a lot of schools interview. Interview is really not that scary because it's all about you. Questions are about, it's not about like, well, if you were on a rowboat in the Indian Ocean and you were given the choice between a book by Soren Kierkegaard and Jean-Paul Sartre, what would you pick? And the answer to that clearly is Drown Me. That's the answer, right? You know, Kierkegaard wrote a 430-page book called Dread. Dread, right? Jean-Paul Sartre, Being and Nothingness. Like, drown me, please drown me. The question's all about you. You know, where do you go to school? Tell me something about your life. What do you do in the summer? Questions like that to do. Unlikely that you'll have those. So the demonstrated interest and the interview really count about this much. You're not going to talk your way into college. But the biggest marketing device a student has is the application. Your application is what really sells you. Application, you have to say ta-ta to your application before you say goodbye, T-A-T-A. First T, thorough. All of the place, everything has to be done. Everything has to be done. First A, accurate. I know what you're thinking. Thanks, Cigus, you think I'm gonna lie. No, I don't think that. But some of our local high schools seem to not quite recognize what the names of certain courses are. Perfect example. Several of the high schools in our area have a class called AP Economics. There is no AP Economics. Go on the AP website and find it. You won't, because there's AP Macroeconomics and AP Microeconomics, and our school's like, we teach both in 1 year. Good, why don't you name it that? AP Micro, fall, AP Macro, spring. Because if I apply to Minerva, and Minerva's never received an application from my high school, and they see that I'm taking AP Economics, they're like, liar. That hurts the student when that's the case. And I can give, there's other examples when you see that sometimes high schools will give a school profile describing what the high school is, and it's like, oh no, that's not really true. You need this to do. So thorough, accurate, timely, it's got to be there on time, deadlines respected. And the second A is attractive. Now, when I read applications, they were on paper. Paper, oh my God. So attractive was a much bigger deal. What does attractive mean now? Well, number one, whatever font they give you, leave it alone. Don't change it. You might be a Verdana gal and they're using Georgia, leave it alone. Because they're used to reading that font. Just leave it the way it is. Number two, whenever you put something in the application, skip a line between the question and your response, because if you don't, it mushes together, looking really bad. Number three, remind yourself, oh, okay, this is a school assignment. This is not a chat. It's not an email. This is like real. So we're not talking in chat language. And number four, everything in the right place. Because here's what's going to happen, okay? Let's take one of our local schools, University of Pennsylvania. You're going to spend hours on your application because Penn not only has its own application, but extra essay questions for you to do, okay? You're going to spend hours on this. You're going to get 7 to 8 minutes with the Penn admissions office. That's it. That's it. So if there's something missing, or if they have to read 45 or 50 of these a day. That's average in a selective college. They don't have time. They can't stop and go like, oh, we have to find. So the better prepared your application is, the more thorough, accurate, timely, and attractive, the more likely it is you'll get a good read. And it's human nature, right? Help me, I help you to do. Okay? So snowflake, business, quilt. Colleges are quilts, not blankets. A blanket is the same stitch over and over again. No matter where you pick it up, looks the same. A quilt is a series of patches, but the patches form patterns, even though the patches are different, right? So let's take the University of Pennsylvania as an example. Their first year class is 2,500 students each year, okay? So you're thinking, oh, that's a lot. You gotta have room for me, right? But before Penn even reads a normal, regular application, they're gonna go through 6 iterations. Number one, recruited athletes. Penn has 35 varsity teams, 35. They have the normal sports, and they have all the designer sports, the woodard, 35. If you count the number of athletes on those teams, divide by 4, there's 4 classes, right? 15% of the first year class is recruited athletes. Not me, that's for sure. Right? Next comes legacy. Now, legacy is falling out of favor a bit. Like, why would you give those people? Well, this is the business part of it. Because their parents went there, their grandparents went there. Legacy is good business for the college to do. And legacy, by the way, is direct descendant. So You know, Aunt Henrietta and Uncle Shlomo, they're not gonna help you, you know? Cousin Noreen, yeah, that was nice, they're not gonna help you with that. Direct descendant to do. You know, imagine me going to my college, direct descendant, hey, what was your father's legacy? South Amboy Elementary School. That's it to do. So legacy for Penn last year was 13% of the class, so that's 28%. There's one patch for really wealthy parents who are willing to give lots of money, in which case their kid could be a moron and they would get in. So that's 29% taken. Then we have the early decision group, and we're going to learn about that later. What's early decision, what's early action. But basically it's you apply ahead and we take you and you're obligated to go. And we sort of give you a little bit of a boost because you apply early. So 14% early decision, that's 43. Penn has a program called the Mayor's Scholarship. They reserve 5 to 6% of the seats for students who live in Philadelphia or who attend school in Philadelphia. How far are we from Philadelphia? 3 blocks. We don't count. But if you took the train and went to Penn Charter, you would count. Like Penn Charter needs help getting into Penn. When their director of counseling was the former admissions director at Penn, they don't need help with that. So last year they took all 6%, so that's 49%. Then 5% for international students, that's 54%. It's half the class. Half the class is gone before they even read an application. This is why college is so competitive. It's not because Penn is 50 times better than they used to be. I applied, if I had applied to Penn, it would have been in 1967. So recruited athletes, basketball, football, maybe a wrestler here and there. So 2%, women, no, they didn't have women athletics. Right, so 2%, right? Legacy was about half at the time, so 8%, 1% for the rich people, 9%. Early decision hadn't been invented, right? Like Mayor's Scholarship hadn't been invented. And in 1967, an international student was from Massachusetts. You know, I would have had 90% of the seats open to me at Penn. You will have about 40%. That's how it works. Here's a perfect example, right? Last weekend would have been the Made in America concert, but it was canceled for whatever reason. So let's just say your favorite artist. Let's pick one out of the hat. Bad Bunny. So Bad Bunny is playing. You find out what concert stage he's going to be on, what day he's on, what hour he's on, and your friends figure out the trip. You're there 3 hours ahead of time. Because you're going to get right up in the front row and sit there. And when you get there, what do you find out? It's roped off. You can't sit there. That's college admissions these days. So it's the quilt model. I think if you want to understand really one thing about how this works, it's the quilt model. Yeah, there's some schools that are fewer, there's some schools that are more. Like if you apply to the University of North Carolina, 82% of the quilt is students from North Carolina. So right off the bat, you know, Texas passed a law about 5 years ago that if you're in the top 6% of your class at any Texas public or charter high school, you go to Austin. Good luck getting into Austin these days with that. Move to Texas. That won't work, by the way. You need like a 2-year residency. You know what the most lenient state is? New Jersey. 30 days. Because they know no one wants to live in New Jersey. That's where I grew up. So I can, smelly North Jersey, right here. So understand the quilt model and understand students, what does that mean? Well, that means you have to mash it up. That means you can't put all the eggs in one basket. You have to be sure that you protect yourself and that on your list of schools, you have some that will be selective. Yes, you want to take a shot at those schools if they fit you. Some schools that are like, right at you're sort of like, ooh, like I should be in the brochure. It's like I'm right there. And then other schools where you exceed their expectations, the likely schools. Please don't call them safety schools. Colleges hate being called safety schools. So you need to mash it up, because otherwise, you're gonna be left out. And I'll apply to all 8 Ivy League schools and just see one of them's bound to take me. Yeah, well, they all have those high standards, so it may not happen to you. So it's not the number of schools, again, it's the fit and whether you're appropriate for that school as well to do. Okay? So those are 3 things to understand about the whole process itself to do. And again, those of you who did not go to school in the United States are thinking, what? But this is foreign to you. If you want to go to the University of Brussels, if you want to go to Montenegro, you just say, okay, here's my exams, here's my grade, this is what I want to be when I grow up. You're done. That's it. Most of them don't take references, and if they do, they might take 1. For that activities, they don't care. The activities are, I want to be a doctor, this is what I've done for doctorate. So really different if you're going abroad. Which might tempt you to say, well, Cigus, you have a son, where did your kid go to college? Well, of the 4,000 or so colleges in the United States, my kid went to Canada. My son attended Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. Everybody always asks, when you go to Canada, oh, your son went to McGill? I'm like, no, McGill would make him read. He's a math guy. He reads. He wants to be what he wants to read. McGill would make him read. Okay. Questions so far? Anybody like? Yes, ma'am.
I mean, I guess it's a little overwhelming. Do you mind just maybe giving us, I mean, I'm sure you'll address it, but maybe a little more of a sense of how do you start narrowing it down and.
That's coming.
Yeah.
That's coming next, right? Absolutely. Sure. Because you're right, you can't examine 4,000 different colleges, but you can immediately eliminate 1,500 of them. If you're looking for a 4-year college, there's 1,500 or 2-year colleges. You may be able to eliminate some based on pathways, some based on selectivity, some based on politics. If I were a sexually active young woman, there are definitely states I wouldn't go to at this point. So there's different ways to make those. This is why it's personal there with that to do. If you don't want to read, there's better colleges to go to. If you want to read all the time, there's better. That's it. And then you definitely want to find people who know the colleges that can give you a sort of an inside view of them as well. I mean, the admissions officers are very nice, and they're not going to lie to you, but they're also going to sort of tell you what they want. So, okay, warm up. There we go. Here we go. How to choose a college. Slideshow. Come on, slideshow. From the beginning. Why do you not move?
It's on the bottom right corner there.
Right, yeah.
There's That's the red dot, 2 dots over. Yeah. Go left more, go left 2 more. Right, no, left, right there.
There you
That's
go.
top.
One to the
Go back
right.
one over, sorry, there you go.
Well, how come it doesn't? It should have opened up here. Right here, it should say from the beginning. This is not lighting up.
It looks like it's.
Well, we'll have to do it this way. Okay. How to choose a college, practical versus personal reasons to consider. No internet.
Oh, maybe that's fine.
Okay, that's a little weird. Okay, hold on. Let me fix that. Let me go in. Put myself into stop and go. Connect. This site can't be reached. Yes, it can.
Oh, there we go. Got it. Check
Go
off.
back. I accept.
All the time sound.
We're coming back. We're doing it. Sorry about that.
There you
Yay.
go.
This Deborah is vulnerable. Oh, no. Okay. So, we're gonna do practical first, okay? Because personal, I don't know you, so I can't help you as much with personal. We'll do practical first. So if I'm ever spending time with any family or students about choosing colleges, I insist that these two must be addressed first, cost and distance. Because, let me put this way. Parents, you love your kids, and you want to make sure that they can achieve their dreams, but you can't be their friends in making this decision. If you can't afford a college to which they may apply, you need to speak up. If you're really scared that they're going to Florida or Texas, you need to speak up. I would really much rather that they hate you now than hate you later. Because that'll wear off after a while. Right? Cost and distance are really key here. With my son, cost was the issue. My wife had become ill when he was a sophomore in high school, couldn't work. I have a high school counselor's salary. I have a house in Malakinwood. So we didn't have very much money, but we also didn't have too little money so that people would support us to do. So cost was an issue, not distance. I raised my son to be independent. He knew the SEPTA system when he was in middle school. He rode his bike everywhere. So he applied to schools in New York, Pennsylvania, Texas, California, Canada, and Scotland. And he chose, I was rooting for Scotland. Can go to Edinburgh once a year? Yeah. So I know we're the best. Right? So he ended up going to Canada to go to school. Right? So you really have to think about this. What will really be right for you? And when you think about cost, it's never just the value. This school costs $40,000 a year. And $600 a year for airplane flights. And there's all those other costs that go along with it. Travel, academic materials, Klondike bars. If you're here in Pennsylvania, Wawa stops. There's all these different things that go with it. Stated costs, that we're going to talk about that with financial aid. Stated costs are almost never what you actually pay for college. Did you? Right? So make sure you research the financial aid programs and the scholarships. Then with distance, again, be honest with yourself. Are you a homebody? Don't be applying to UCLA if you're a homebody. If you know you're going to get homesick, if you don't like to be away from home, if you resisted going to camp, if you didn't want to be overnight, don't hurt yourself that way. We happen to live in a college-saturated area. You can't go 5 miles without running into a college here. There's got plenty of choices if you want to stay here. And pay attention to airport hubs, metropolitan chicos. Like Charlotte is further than Williamsburg, but if you want to fly to Williamsburg, it costs twice as much. Who flies to Williamsburg? Charlotte's a hub. Sometimes it's more expensive to fly to the middle of the country than it is to fly to the end of the country, to California. So please pay attention to all of that. Because it's critical. It's really critical to understand that. That's really the first thing to do. Right? Is there a guideline here? If your parents have the limits, set them well ahead of time. Have that conversation now, sooner rather than later. Okay, so we've settled that. We want to go within, let's say 6 to 8 hour drive. Let's just say that. We're not too concerned about cost because we know we can handle a pretty decent pay. So now we think about field of study. Do you have a defined field of study that you'd like to pursue? A no answer is fine. I think if you're honest with yourself, you're probably saying, well, I think I want to do such and such, but I'm 17, so how do I really know? And that's nice to be honest with yourself. The United States is the only country that gives you that option, by the way. If you apply to a college in any other country, you apply to a major. There's no undecideds. Any place else. Any place else. You must apply to a major. In the US, you can apply undeclared. And even if you apply to a major, other than some specialized ones, it's easy to change. Not that hard to change a major. But let's say I know what I want. I want to be a doctor, I'm going to do pre-med, or I know I want to go into business, so I want to do economics or business, or I want to teach. You have a pretty strong idea with that. That can then be a way to look for a college. And if you have a really specialized, like aviation, we'll fly airplanes. How many colleges actually have a flight program where you can get a commercial pilot's license? 27. Look at that. Right? 4,000, 27. And none of them are around here. Think about it. Where's the airspace? You can't fly around here. You're going to arrest it. They're out in the Midwest. Most of the schools where you can learn to fly, because there's here in the Midwest. There's nothing in the Midwest. So if you're somewhat certain but not fully committed, is it easy to change majors? Figure that out. It is, for the most part. If you're going from a popular major to a less popular major, easy. If you're going from undecided to engineering, good luck. If you're going from undecided to nursing, you're not. No nursing schools I know take transfers, unless from another nursing school. So there's some that are impacted, that's the cool college one, meaning you can't mess around with them to do that. You know, nursing and engineering are primary among those. And is there a broad selection of courses and majors? So if you're really undecided, but you kind of think you might want to do music, Curtis Institute of Music might not be a good choice, because there's nothing else. That's what they do, is music. But if you're pretty strong at music, but you want other things open to you, you've got the Jacobs School of Music in Indiana, for example. You know, you've got schools that have Blair's College of Music at Vanderbilt, the Wells College of Music at Westchester, which is a wonderful place. Westchester's music program is amazing. Of course, what the greatest thing about the city of town of Westchester, the main intersection in Westchester, like Broad and Market, is Gay and High. How great is that? I'll meet you at Gay and High. Oh, okay. Gay Street and High Street. So it's not absolutely necessary to know. But one thing to consider is career and employment. Opportunities are often linked to a field of study. So let's say you want to do communications. How about Peru State College in southeastern Nebraska? No. Kind of lovely school. Nebraska people are lovely people. But where are your opportunities? With whom do you communicate? Cows? You know, you do that in a major media outlet. Right? You want to do pre-med? You want to do nursing? Go to a college that has an affiliation with a hospital. Right? That just makes sense to do. Right? So you make sure that you have those opportunities. You may have to relocate at some point if you change your major. That might not work out, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying go to college with the idea you can transfer, but understand that you can transfer. College is not marriage. Right? You don't have to file for divorce. You just say later, and you go. Okay? So field of study, major, is a part of it, which then brings us to availability of activities. So you may have been doing things for years. Maybe you own a horse, maybe you board a horse, maybe you want to continue riding when you're in college. There are 41 colleges in the United States that allow you to board your horse at college. Seriously, you can't bring your cat, you can bring your horse. Okay, to do. So again, it's something that sports that you want to continue. And you don't have to be a varsity athlete. There's 3 levels of sports. There's varsity, there's club, and there's intramural. So if you're a really good tennis player, maybe you pursue varsity. If you're thinking, I want to pay more attention, then you do club. And if you're thinking, I'll just hit the ball around with my friends, you can do that. You've got all 3 levels to be able to do that. Then you want to try something new. When you go off to college, about the 3rd or 4th day during orientation, you'll be called down to the field house, to the gym, and there will be 300 tables with people sitting at them to tell you what clubs and organizations, it's overwhelming. It's like, oh, you have a Doritos club? Like, oh my God, there's like everything. Everything. You will not be at a loss for things to do in college. So take a look, see what's available to you to do. Okay? There's all kinds of activities available. Try something new, continue something that you're doing now. And again, don't think of it as, if you want to continue to dance, you don't have to major in dance. Every college has some dance classes. But if you want to do a more serious dance, maybe a minor, go to a school that takes it more seriously. Go to a school that does have a dance major. This is something personal that you can do. Right? So if they have the activities, you can do it. And then we have opportunity for admission. This is a polite way of saying, can you get in? Hey. So this is what I talked about before. You have the reach schools, the ones that are harder to get into, the target schools, which match where you are, and the likely schools. Okay? Do you want to blend your idealism and your realism? You want to dream, but you don't want a nightmare? Because if all your dreams collapse and now you don't have a place to go to college, not good. College selectivity varies from year to year. Some schools get a little less selective, sometimes get more selective to do. It changes. It depends on the people who apply, depends on the institutional needs for that. It depends on, there's a zillion things it can depend on to do. Again, the opportunity for admission is important, and I don't want you to squirrel yourself away in the reachies, but also give yourself more credit and don't just do the likelies. Stretch yourself out there to do. When I was applying to graduate school, I applied to 3 programs. I applied to what I considered a reach, a target, and a likely. Well, the reach and the likely rejected me. And I thought, oh my God, I'm done. How do you get rejected from the University of Utah? But I did. They have a terrific clinical psychology program, but it wasn't going to be mine. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you accept polygamists and child abusers, and you're not accepting me? Please, this is Utah, right? And then I ended up getting into my target school. Oh, what do you know to do? So keep yourself open to the different levels that way. But make sure that you don't lock yourself into one. But you have to apply to college in tiers, not PEARS. That may happen, just warning you. The TIDRS, tiers, that you gotta do it that way. Okay? So this is the practical side of things. So maybe now we're down to, 70 colleges that fit. And now the personal side comes in. Now, what do you want as a person? What do you want as a social individual? This is the fit, right? What's the vibe on that college? Right? Does it feel right? Now, this is where visiting the college really makes sense. And if you have the wherewithal, the time, and the resources to do that, please do. These tours that you do online are great. They are. But they don't show you the whole picture. So for example, let's say you did the tour for Yale University. And I'm not picking Yale because it's selective. I'm picking Yale because it's gorgeous. Oh my God. It's like Hogwarts. Like all the buildings are like museums. It's absolutely beautiful. Oh my God. And so you're like, oh my God, I gotta go up and visit this place. And you get to New Haven, Connecticut, and you're like, how many Yale students does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is none. New Haven looks better in the dark. Not a nice place. Great pizza. New Haven has fabulous pizza. But, dude, come on, that pizza's great.
Flatbread, right?
Oh, yeah, it is. It is that. Good Italian food. Main reason why that part of Connecticut has really good Italian food is that Yale brought over dozens of Italian masons to build the buildings back in the 1700s, and they stayed in open restaurants. What it has is good Italian food to do. But the fit is really, it's elusive, because what fits you isn't gonna fit me. This is why it's difficult for helping a student with college, you really have to know the student, and the student has to be comfortable with being known for that. You know, it has to affirm, embrace your interests, espouse your values, recognize and affirm your sensibilities, provide an environment you can grow and take calculated risks. But that's gonna be different for each person. It's gonna be absolutely different. I mean, it's not about brand names. It's not about brand names. I mean, yes, you may end up in a school that is a brand name, but if I go to Brooks Brothers and I buy a size 46 suit, it's gonna be a great looking suit, eminently durable, perfectly tailored, but I'm gonna look like a fool because I take a 41 pork. It's not gonna fit. No matter how nice the suit looks, it's not gonna fit. So be careful with that. It's not the names. I'm not down on the Yales of the world, believe me. If they fit, great. But I am a little down on individuals who pursue those schools for what's called prestige. Right? So let me remind you that the Gallo Latinate root of the word prestige is trickery. So, yeah, prestidigitation for magic, playing tricks on people. So don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. So I'm going to just go through some issues here of what are these personal things. So what's the school culture like? Is there an active Greek life, fraternities, sororities? And if there is, do I have to belong to have any kind of social life? Okay. Rah-rah major sports. I mean, you can go to Villanova, or you can go down 8 miles down the road to Swarthmore. I went to Swarthmore as an undergrad, and Swarthmore couldn't care less about sports. But that was an advantage to me because I never made my high school baseball team, but I played varsity at Swarthmore. That's how bad we were. So I got to play.
They've gotten better.
Well, they're way better now because they would recruit.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I loved it when they were losers.
Yeah.
Because we were proud of being losers. You know, not everybody recruits now because they have to keep up with everybody. So that's a personal thing. Academic, intellectual, cerebral, work hard, play hard. Is there a dominant social paradigm? Is there a more common student personality? Campus life? Do you want Hillel on campus? All these different things. And these are things that the student needs to understand for themselves. Like, do I want these things or do I not want these things? Uniqueness, some schools are quite unique. So, for example, you could go to Cornell College, not university, Cornell College in Iowa, or you could go to Colorado College in Colorado, and they have a block schedule. You take one class each month, one class. So September's math, October is English, November's psych, and December's physics. 18 class days, 3 days off, take an exam, and go to the next class to do. Unique schedules. Some schools are trimesters, some schools are quarters. Drexel's a quarters school. Each quarter is about 10.5 weeks long, so you do 3 courses while your fellow students are doing 4 courses. That's a pretty intense 10.5 weeks that you do. So all differences with this. Living situations, right? There's some schools that have the traditional, you have a roommate, the old boxy dorm thing. There's some that have suites, there's some that have apartments, there's, you go to Wesleyan University in Connecticut and there's a clothing optional dorm. They don't show you that on the tour. But it's a college-owned house and you don't have to wear clothes. And so there's a unique living situation for you to do. So can I stand it if my roommate doesn't put the cap back on the toothpaste? Oh. So I got lucky, I will tell you. My first year, my roommate was terrific. Dan and I got along really well. He was from rural Maine. I'm from Stubby, North Jersey. But we both had a working class background. His father never went to college. I went to high school, so I win. Right? So we're talking, and he's showing me pictures, because no cell phones, not in 1968. And he shows me pictures of his backyard, and it's like a forest. It's like a forest in his backyard. And he said, Cigus, sometimes we can see moose out there. And I said, that's nice, Dan. I look out my backyard and I can see rats. I love it. And nothing. So it takes all kinds. It takes all kinds. Okay. And then questions. How do I choose a college? Any questions? I can give you an easy one, right? If you wanted to major in bagpiping, where would you go?
Europe?
Europe. There you go. Perfect. There's one school in the United States, Carnegie Mellon. The only school in the US that has a bagpiping major. So sometimes you might get lucky. You have that. Architecture, right? 85 schools in the US and Canada. That's it. Because if you don't go to a certified school, National Architectural Association, Architecture Accreditation Board, you can't even take the exam. So that kind of makes life a little bit easier for you. In how many schools can you major in psychology? 3,990. So some are much more broad than doing that. Do you have any questions about the choosing a college part to do? Okay, yes, ma'am.
Just wondering about the timing, at which grade should you start researching this? Because, I mean, I suppose you don't want to do it too early before you know if you're a good fit, but if you do it too late and you're overwhelmed with how much you have to do.
Well, the research you do, I think in 9th and 10th grade is self-research. It's reflective self-awareness. What do I want for myself? Who am I? Types of questions. Then by the end of 10th grade, now you're kind of looking down the path now. Because once you hit 11th grade, you're an upper class student now. So you typically in most high schools, by 11th grade, you're doing AP and IB classes if you're capable and willing and you want to do that. Some students can take AP classes in 10th grade. That's not as common as doing that. So I would say self-examination comes first, and then you start to branch out from there with that. Okay. I would say there's no perfect way to do it, but you come first. You figure out you, or as much as about you that you can, and then you take that information and use that to start to figure out the rest of it. Yes, ma'am.
If you attend a college fair, what's the best way to get the most out of it?
College fairs are like a mall, except that there's not stores, there's booths with colleges. And of course, you don't have to buy anything, because they'll give you stuff with that. It's tough because you don't usually get a lot of quality time with a representative.
That's what I mean, like when you were talking about, because we went and it's a ton of people, so I guess my question is, A, are there specific great questions for you to ask, because they are recording who comes and who doesn't come? And
There are, and that's where the self-awareness part comes in, develop the questions before you go.
so what are, like, I guess, what would those questions that you feel like are more beneficial to get in person versus online?
Yeah, the questions would be about the practical and the personal sides of things. For example, what programs do you have? Do you have these programs that interest me? And then the personal side, what would fit me if I want to do this and that? Am I going to be welcome to do that? Those questions would be. But probably what you found is that 80% of the schools had nobody, and 20% of the schools had everybody else. Everybody's crowding around the Lenovas and places like that.
I mean, I don't know, because I do kind of feel like in some ways there's something for everyone, so there were, like, I wouldn't say anyone was empty, but it was surprising, actually, I think that's when my son and I were very surprised at the schools that he had never heard of, that once he got there, he was curious, and I feel like that is why I'm kind of wondering how you, because you said you're not going to visit all of these campuses, and this is them bringing to you, and what's the best way to utilize your 2 minutes with these people?
I think the best way to do that again is preparation ahead of time. So if you went on the College Board website, if you went on the Naviance website, if you went on the SCORE website, if you went to College Navigator, you could do a college search. And you could say, give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that, and see what comes up, and then use that list and target those schools. Go to those schools. So I want a school that's mid to larger. I don't want a small school. I don't want to be out in the middle of the country. I want a school that has a substantial Christian population. I want a school that has a pre-med program. And now you have a list of 27 schools. It's like, here we go. There we can go. That preparation ahead of time
What were those websites, what you said, Naviance?
It depends on what your school district has. Some use Naviance, some use Score. The College Navigator is a great, nces.ed.gov, I'll put that up at some point to do, because that has way more information than you want.
What
So,
was it?
College Navigator, let me put it up. nces.ed.gov. This is College Navigator. And I'll show you how detailed this is, right? So let's put Temple in here.
Mhm.
And here's Temple University. So these are all the areas that you can know about. So, for example, does Temple have a bowling team? Whoop, they do not. Actually, they have a club bowling team, but I knew that, didn't. Or, okay, I want to major in archaeology. They have an archaeology major, Asian studies, horticulture. Right? This is it. I mean, and it tells you how many students actually were graduated in that major. So you might think, well, I'm going to go to this school because they have this major that I want, but then nobody actually went in that major. Look at all these majors. Whoop, whoop, whoop. It's amazing to do. This can be a little overwhelming, the College Navigator, but it's definitely the most thorough, just for factual information. Doesn't tell you about the people, doesn't tell you about the atmosphere of the school, but all the factual information is here. And the reason it's there is that colleges that want federal funding have to report it. So this is the most thorough place where you can find it to do. And then if you go into College Board, let's go into College Board. College Board, board.org. Yeah, College Board is a nonprofit, right? Here's College Board. And we want to go to Big Future, shut up, College Search. So let's tell College Board what we want. This is how this works. So majors, right? I want to major in architecture. Okay. I want to major in, oh, you know what? I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just keep architecture, right? Show colleges. Right? Oh, sorry, I took architecture off. So location, right? I want to be about 6 hours from home. So let's go 200 miles, right? Show colleges, right? So I went from 4,000 to 563 with one click for that to do. So here's all the different schools to which I can go. So let's go to campus life. I don't want a small school, so I want these two. So look at that, I'm down to 45 with 2 clicks. So these can be a really big help. But again, they're not going to distill the more personal sides of things. They're not going to tell you that Montclair State is really more a New York type school, even though it's in North Jersey for that. So they won't tell you that. They will give you some good information about narrowing things down. Harrison, Commonwealth, Queens, UMBC. So these are good. These are good stuff. So I may be eligible for money. Yay me! All right, so let us talk next about slideshow. About something that you will find only in the United States, and that is different types of admission. See, the United States is the only country that allows students to cut in line. It's like going to Disney and paying the extra $60, so you don't have to wait in line to get on whatever you want to get in line with. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my favorite ride in the world is the teacups. So I actually like being busy.
Yeah.
Being busy, right? I never have to wait for the teacups,
No.
so I don't have to worry about that. But you can pay, and this in the United States, they have different types of admission that allow you to cut in line. You can apply ahead of everybody else. You are in a smaller pool. You get some preferential seat for that, and then you don't have to wait to get your decision. Not going to find this anyplace else. The only two colleges outside the US that have any earlier deadlines are Oxford and Cambridge, and that's only because you have to interview with them. So you have to have your application, you don't hear from them any earlier, but you have to set up an interview with them. So they have an October 15th deadline to be able to do that. And by the way, fun fact, you cannot apply to both of them. You can only apply to either Oxford or Cambridge. You cannot apply to both. I know, weird, right? Like, weird stuff to do. So the first type of admission I want to help you understand is the difference between rolling and regular admission. So this is regular decision. The way this works is the college establishes a deadline. So most colleges here in the US, it's January 1, might be a little bit later for some of them. And they collect all the applications. So all the applications come in. And once they are all in, they use that as the means by which they figure out the type of class that they want. So maybe they were thinking, okay, we'll probably be able to admit students that are like B+, A-, but then it turns out that they don't get that many applicants that are at that level, so they can kind of shift down and make it a different, or it might be up. They might have a much better pool than they thought, and it comes up from that. But the key element here is you might apply as soon as the application opens, and most applications open August 1, before actually the senior year begins. You're not going to hear until maybe March from a regular decision, because they wait until they get everything before they actually start making decisions. Okay? So that's how regular decision works. There is a counterpart of that, which is called rolling admissions. Okay? And the way this works is that colleges make decisions as the applications arrive. So now instead of figuring, okay, here's the pool of applicants we have, let's sort them and see what we get. Now the college says, okay, if you're a B student, and if you send an SAT, if it's 1150 or above, you're in. You're in. They set a standard. That's their criteria, you're in. You're in, you're in, you're in, you're in. Okay? So if I apply on August 4th, I might find out before I even start senior year. Because they take the applications and judge them, evaluate them as they come in. What school that we probably all know is most notable for this? That would be the University of Pittsburgh, which still remains a rolling admission school. Okay, there are others, Arizona State, University of Arizona, there's a few others that are like that. But the point here is that the quicker you apply, the more likely it is that you will get in. Not just because you may be qualified, but because they have room. So here's a mistake that some people make. I'm applying to Penn, I'm applying to Vanderbilt, I'm applying to the, and Pitt is my likely school. So I can wait, right? I can wait. I'll get all these done. Deadline is January 1, have my little break. Then I'll get to Pitt maybe at the end of January, beginning of February. Guess what? You're on the wait list. Doesn't matter that you're the best student ever in your high school. They don't have any more room because it's rolling admissions. You might end up getting in because not everybody that gets accepted to Pitt goes to Pitt. So you might still get in, but don't wait. If you've got Harvard and Pitt, what do you do first? Pitt. Pitt. Rolling admissions comes first. So here's a good way to look at it. A good analogy, if you will. Okay? So if I'm a swim coach and I gotta get a swim team together, two ways I can do it with rolling admissions and with regular admissions. I set a baseline. So if you swim the 100 meters in 1 minute or less, you're in. You're in. Here's a 54, here's a 57, here's a 107, no, they're not in. Okay, so you're in. So I get my team, let's say I want 12 swimmers. I'm gonna take 14, I'm gonna take a couple alternates just in case some can't go. So 4 days after I finish this, I get an application from Katie Ledecky. Is Katie on my team? No. Well, in real life she would be, because somebody would pay her off, right? But no, she's not. She gets waitlisted. She's now number 15 on the list to do. That's rolling admissions. As opposed to regular admissions, which is, okay, swim club's open, you got 3 days to swim, you get 3 trials, I take the 12 best times, and then the next 2 alternates. That's how regular admissions works. That's the difference between the two. So you can wait, parents shudder when I say this, you can wait to apply to a regular admission school literally up until the deadline, and it will not affect your admission. Don't do that with rolling, but you can do that with regular admissions. All right, preferential date admissions. Okay, so early decision. Early decision means this. You agree to apply to this school, and in return, you promise that you will attend if you're admitted. This is a binding plan. It's a binding plan. In return, you'll compete against fewer students, not necessarily less qualified students, but fewer students. The college will give you some preference because you're applying early decision. What's the best way to tell a college that you love them? Apply early decision, because they know you have to go. And you'll receive your answer usually before winter break or right thereafter. And you're done. You're done. You apply early decision to Dickinson and you're in on, I don't know, December 19th, you're done. You're finished. Now, if you don't get in, there are 2 other possible decisions. You could be denied right off the bat. They could say, oh, no, even if we put you with the regular pool, you're not going to make it. Or you can be deferred, which means they put you in the regular pool and they see how you show up against that group of students to do. But this is a binding plan, so you can't take this lightly. You can't say, well, I didn't mean it. I didn't know it. Because on the applications that are used, there's a sign-off box for the student, for the parent, and for the school counselor. And each of those 3 signs off and says, we know what this means. So you can't be like, oh, I hit the wrong. No. Doesn't work like that. Now, let's do a God forbids scenario. You get in and your mom loses her job. You can now no longer pay. If something like that occurs, the college will release you from your obligation to attend. They're not prudent about this. You can't play games with this. College says you're in. You say, well, oh, no, I need another $5,000. Shut up. Pay the $5,000. You know what you were doing. There's a $50,000 difference. That is different. That is different. But you did your research ahead of time. You have a pretty good idea of what you're going to pay. And we'll do that in the last session, if you can come to the last session, all about financial aid, how to figure out what it is that you're supposed to pay. So early decision is binding, the binding plan. You can only apply to one school early decision. One school. So now, some of the more devious among us might be thinking, how would they know, Cigus? I'm going to apply early decision to Penn, and regardless, how are they going to know? Well, they share lists. That's how they know. Colleges are permitted to share lists of students that apply early decision. So they'll know. And you'll get 2 letters, one from Penn, one from Dartmouth, that say, nice try, baby. So now you're rejected from both right off the bat to do. You get one school early decision. Yep. So there is another plan, which is called early action. So now you get most of the benefits, okay? You get to apply ahead of everybody else. You get some preference because you're applying early action. You find out ahead, but you're not obligated to attend. There is no downside to early action. The only time I would tell my students not to take advantage of it is if they had a kind of sketchy junior year and they need to do really well first semester senior year to pump themselves back up. In that case, wait till regular, show them your first semester grades, and by the way, senior year counts, really counts. Fourth quarter, there was this football game a couple of years ago, and this one team was winning by 10 points at halftime, and they did nothing in the second half, and the other team scored 17 points and won. Oh, that might be the Eagles, wouldn't it? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they fell apart, just like they did last year during the season to do. So, yeah. So there's no downside to early action. How many early action schools can you apply to? Millions. Millions. There is one limitation, I'll get to that later. But you could apply to Temple early action, Westchester early action, MIT early action. There's a million schools that go early action. Most of the major universities, Penn State goes early action, Ohio State, wait, you can't go to Ohio State, that's in Ohio. All early, you go to a million of them to do. Don't do that, by the way, but you can. So there's no downside to early action. You can put it in your pocket like, oh, I'm in Penn State, and wait to see what happens to do. Early action is pretty cool. However, there's always exceptions, right? So there are a number of schools that are weird. Susquehanna University, if you're a legacy, you could apply early action. Why? If you're a legacy, they're probably gonna let you in anyway, but Susquehanna is in central Pennsylvania, it's on the way to Penn State. It's distinguished by two things. Number one, the Sturgis Pretzel Factory is right down the road, and you can take the tour, they give you free pretzels. And the community aid thrift store, the largest one in the entire state, 8 miles down the road. These are my reasons for going to college. You can see my personal reasons for this. Okay, so Notre Dame and Georgetown, if you apply early action to those two schools, you can't apply ED anyplace else. Now, if I apply EA to Temple, I can still apply ED to Penn. If I apply EA to MIT, I can still apply ED to Swarthmore. I'm okay with that to do. But Notre Dame and Georgetown are like, no, wait a minute. You're applying early decision somewhere. If you get it, you have to go. Why should we even read your application? We're wasting our time. Makes sense, right? Then, of course, you have the big guys here. You have Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Caltech, and Stanford, which have single choice early action. So you cannot apply early action or early decision anyplace else except if it's a public university that's EA. So you could apply to Harvard, single choice early action, and Penn State. You can apply to Harvard and Wisconsin. You can apply to Harvard and University of California. You cannot apply early to Harvard and early to MIT, because MIT is a private school. So only EA public universities and any school overseas, because none of them were binding, none of them. So if you want to apply to Harvard and Edinburgh, you got it. If you want to go to Harvard and McGill, you're good. If you want to apply to Harvard and the University of Witwatersrand, you're good. So any of those would work. But it's single choice early action for them, which you just know that there have to be some exceptions, right? And of course, these guys are the ones that make the exceptions with that to do. So I definitely encourage my students, if they are within range of a college that is early action, there's no reason not to use it. You'll find out ahead of time and you just can sit on it until you're ready to make your decision. Having said that, let me warn you that you'll get some incentives. So you apply early to Penn State, for example, and sometime in March, now you don't have to answer till May 1st, but sometime in March, it's like, hey, Tom, if you commit now, we'll give you a better deal. They're not supposed to do that, but they do. So you'll get some incentives with that. You'll get a parking space if you commit now. So just be aware, you might be incentivized. Which definitely is a verb now, but everything's a verb these days. Yes?
Will most of their applications have any of these stipulations, like if they have an EA, clause that you can't apply to another one, like is that easy for you to find, or do you need to dig to find your schools and what their protocol is?
The applications themselves will not have that information, but the admission sites will. It will say straight out. And then if you use a common application or a score application where you can apply to many schools, there's a dashboard that tells you whether it's EA or ED.
So you need to make sure you're doing your research on it.
The year after I left I was in Cherry Hill West. The year after I left, one of the students on the softball team, I was their scorekeeper, ended up applying early decision to 2 schools without knowing, and got turned down in both of them. I wish I had helped you for that, made sure you didn't do that. So yeah, this is a maze, because if you're in Canada, or if you're in Cambodia, or if you're in Cameroon, they're like, early what? What the hell's that? They have no idea what that is. There's one deadline, which is really nice to do. So preferential date, admit you can be accepted, you can be denied, you can be deferred. Okay, either way to that. Not a lot of deferrals, by the way. Most colleges kind of know whether you'd be competitive, and they'd rather just let you go and not, So what's the limit of schools you can apply to early action? There is none, except for those. What's the earliest date you can be admitted to college? When you're 14 years old. Did you know that? If you're 14 years old in the state of Pennsylvania, you can start taking courses at your local community college. You don't have to have your high school permission. You don't have to have a diploma for that. So there's no really earliest date. If you're looking at the senior year, you can be admitted. If you apply to Pitt on August 1st, you'll be admitted before Labor Day. So, yeah.
So if you have a student who wants to take econ while they're still in high school, they can take it at like a community college. And would that then count in when they eventually are matriculated into the college?
Yep. You may or may not get credit for it, depending on what kind of econ class it is to do. But if you were to take it at the local community college, you just make sure you get a transcript from them and send that along to do. But some schools have dual enrollment, where you can take it at the high school, but it also counts as a college course as well to do. So there's plenty of different ways to do this. If I apply to University of Penn under ED, and I get deferred, and I apply to Swarthmore under ED2, this is a new thing. The ED2 is like in the last maybe 10 years or so. It's like, okay, we know that all of these students are applying to these whoop-ass ED schools, but maybe I might want them, so let me set up an ED2. So now that deadline is maybe January 1st, January 15th, still binding. So if Penn says on, say, December 3rd that I'm deferred, Swarthmore's ED2 is until January 1. Can I apply? Yes, because my Penn application is no longer active. So I could do that. Then Swarthmore defers me on February 2nd, and F&M and Muhlenberg have an ED2, which is a February 15th deadline. Can I apply that? Yes, I can, because it's no longer active. Please don't do that. Yes.
So if I get this right, if the deadline for my first early decision, if that passes in reality,
Right.
we're like in time, we're beyond that. And the ED2 deadline is later in time, that means I can still apply.
Correct.
Okay,
Wait,
got
but
it.
only if you heard back from the first one and didn't get it.
Right.
Only
You
if
can't
Right, yeah, you have to be
Wait.
deferred, right, you have to
Okay.
be deferred, yeah.
I have to either be deferred or denied.
Or denied, right,
Okay.
right, or denied. Right. But let's be more hopeful, you're deferred. To that. Now that of course means that if you apply to that ED2 and you get in, Penn's goodbye.
Yeah.
They're the first school's goodbye to do that,
Mhm.
right? And you are obligated within 30 days of being admitted to notify the other schools to which you've applied that you've been accepted someplace else.
Can they counter and accept you?
I'm sorry?
Can that school, the original school, then say, accept you and say like, look, we are gonna take you? you're not committed to your ED two, you're committed to your ED.
Oh, no,
Okay.
you're no longer ED because you've been
Right.
deferred from the ED.
Right, I just was
Yeah.
asking if they could then.
I have had some students that have said, well, what's the harm? Let me just see if I get into these schools. The harm is they're gonna take hours to get your applications all sorted out and you're already committed somewhere. Give them a break to do. Okay, so that's it? I think we're done? Yes, we're done for that. Any last questions? We went right up to 8:30, that's amazing. You guys are great for that. So if you can come back next week, that would be wonderful. We'll start again with this. We'll talk mostly next time about what colleges want from students, what's important to them, and will somebody please take the temple? Sir, please.
But you're giving